What is up, Breaking Bad fans? Kino here, and welcome to the second to last day of Breaking Bad-tober. Today we're looking at the 15th episode of Season 5, Granite State. Now, the episode opens with the disappearer, a man named Ed Galbraith, taking Saul to his shop. Saul needs to disappear as well, and Ed is going to set him up in Nebraska. This is, of course, the setup for the sequel/prequel show Better Call Saul. And yes, we will be taking a look at that show in the future. Calm down. In the meantime, Saul will have to wait at the shop with Walt, who's also there while Ed figures out where to hide him. After the title, the DEA drives Marie home from the White residence. When they arrive at the Schrader house, though, they see that someone has ransacked the place. It's revealed that it was Jack's gang, who broke in to steal the DVD of Jesse confessing. They laugh at Jesse crying on tape, but Jack soon gets angry when he sees that Jesse ratted on Todd about killing Drew Sharp. Jack wants to kill Jesse, but Todd insists that they need him to cook. Jack realizes that what Todd really wants is to keep seeing Lydia, but agrees to let Jesse live anyway. Meanwhile, in Ed's bunker, Walt is planning on killing Jack and his crew for revenge. He asks Saul for his help, but Saul instead suggests turning himself in so Skyler can go free. Walt refuses to give up until he recovers all of his money, though. When the time comes for Saul to leave, Walt tries to intimidate him like he did in the first episode of the season. However, this time he begins coughing and collapses, and it's clear he's no longer the threatening person he once was. Meanwhile, Skyler meets with the DEA, who threaten to go after her unless she gives them Walt. However, Skyler has no idea where Walt is, so has nothing to offer them. Later that night, men in masks break into her house and threaten her. They warn her against telling the police anything about Lydia, who Skyler met at the car wash. The next day, Todd meets with Lydia and tells her what happened. Lydia is uncomfortable with the risks that they're in and calls off their partnership. However, Todd, desperate to keep her around, informs her that their meth is now 92% pure, thanks to Jesse Pinkman. This makes Lydia reconsider her objections, knowing how much money the meth is now worth. Later, Walt is transported in the inside of a propane truck to a cabin in the New Hampshire wilds. The spot is isolated without any phones or internet, so that no one can find Walt. Ed tells him that there's a small town a few miles down the road, but warns him that he will be caught if he leaves the premises. After he's gone, Walt takes some money and prepares to head to town, but gets nervous and decides to wait until tomorrow. Back at Jack's compound, Jesse is preparing to escape using a paperclip he found. Todd brings Jesse some ice cream, and Jesse convinces him to leave the tarp off of his cell. After he leaves, Jesse breaks out of his cuffs and escapes the cage. However, before he can hop the fence, he's caught by the neo-Nazis. Jesse tells them that he refuses to cook for them anymore. The gang then takes Jesse to watch as they kill Andrea in front of him. Though he wails in despair from seeing her killed, they warn him that if he doesn't continue to cook for them, they'll kill her son Brock as well. We then jump ahead months. Ed arrives at the cabin with his monthly supply drop-off. Walt is now sporting a beard and a full head of hair, and he's also not left the cabin ever since that first day. Ed updates Walt on Albuquerque news, telling him that Skyler has been forced out of their home by the feds and is working as a part-time taxi dispatcher. He then hooks up a chemotherapy drip to try and treat Walt's growing cancer. As he prepares to leave, Walt, out of loneliness, begs him to stay, offering $10,000 for an hour of his time. Walt realizes that he's going to die soon and asks if Ed would give his money to his family. Ed then rhetorically asks Walt if he would believe that he would. Later, Walt wakes up to the sound of his wedding ring falling off of his finger. He's now so thin that it won't stay on. It's also a powerful symbol of the fact that the evil inside of Walt has destroyed his marriage and left him alone and dying where he is now. The next day, Walt fills a box with $100,000 and heads to town. At Junior's high school, he's called to the principal's office for a call with his aunt. However, it turns out to be Walt, calling from a bar in town. Walt tells his son that he's sending the money to his friend Lewis's house in order to get it to their family. However, Junior is disgusted by Walt sending them drug money and tells his father that he wishes him dead. This, by the way, is the same thing that he told Walt in the first season when he was debating his cancer treatment.
Then why don't you just fucking die already?
Why are you still alive?
Why don't you just die already?
Just die.
Though Walt begs him and says that it can't have all been for nothing, Junior hangs up on the phone. With his family completely disowning him, Walt gives up hope and calls the DEA to report his location. He then sits down at the bar for a drink. However, on the TV, Walt sees Gretchen and Elliot on the Charlie Rose show. They have donated millions of dollars to support drug rehab centers in an effort to distance their company from Walt. They also downplay Walt's contribution to the company. This gets Walt angry, and as the episode ends, with the iconic theme music playing, the DEA arrive on the scene to see that Walt has already left. The title of the episode, Granite State, refers to the state of New Hampshire where Walt hides out in this episode. Walt's just lucky he didn't run into Vito while he was down there, or the show might have ended very differently. It also refers to Walt's state of decay as a lifeless and immobile thing before his pride and ego stir him back into action. The snowy New Hampshire scenes were actually filmed in New Mexico, in the Sandia Mountains. This is also where the Alaska scenes in El Camino were. The New York Times column that Charlie Rose mentions is a real thing. Written by the real journalist Andrew Ross Sorkin, it was available on the New York Times website. Finally, Ed mentions that the White residence has become a tourist destination since Walt became famous, so much so that they had to put up a fence to block people from breaking in. Funny enough, this is actually what happened to the real-life house that they used to film the exterior shots at. The owners had so many people taking pictures and throwing pizzas onto the roof, they had to set up a fence to block people. To this day, they still have signs up telling people not to photograph their house. So if you're ever in Albuquerque trying to visit the iconic Breaking Bad locations, maybe skip this location. And that's everything I had to say about the episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the final Breaking Bad log, coming soon. I love you, Walter Cakes. Russell, Sean, Heart of Markness, Logan, Clean, John Reyna, Jesse Sterling, Andrew Stewart, Obs Gracing Media, Daz J-Kit, Conan Higgins, Sam Cedarlin, Don Lucania, Celery Man, Jenna Marie Johnson, Brad Smith Studios, Uncle Mike, and Shane Boyce.